GM, GM.
GM. What's up, guys? How are you?
I'm doing well. Just going through a lot of deliveries on a lot of things at once. So, a lot of stuff we'll be talking about today, like Testnet. We just finished our audit competition, and kind of planning out the beta release for Mainnet.
Alright. Great. So, guys, thank you first of all for tuning in. This is Leviathan News. Today is April 18th, I think, and I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
it is.
And and it's quite and we have a very special guest, friend of the show for sure, ZeroXMy from Curvance. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well.
I'm sure
Just
some already recognize, by the way. I'm sure some already recognize you. And by the way, this day is not only a birthday of one of my friends in real life, actually, but it's also, I understand, quite an important day for you guys at Kerbans. Seeing a lot of hype from you guys the past few days on TG and X and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that we've been building for so long and we tried to not string people along in terms of like when things would be out. So like as things are actually coming to fruition here and starting to get stuff that people can actually use in front of people, I think it's pretty exciting for everyone because we've been talking about Curvance for so long and now it's like actually here. So I think it's surreal for a lot of people, myself included.
For sure, man. How long, by the way, have you guys been working on Curvance? I'm pretty sure I asked you that in the past, but I'm not sure. But it's
Mhm.
been years, right?
Yeah, so we started formally actually working on the protocol in May of 2022. So it's 23 months now. So we're going to be, two years on the dot here in a few weeks, basically, which is crazy to think. So yeah, it took a while, but all things, if you want to do like really transformative stuff, you want to build cool things from scratch, it takes a while.
For sure. Can you, Mike, can you maybe share a bit about Curvance in general for those who, honestly, I think that today Leviathan has a few more viewers, thankfully, from the last time you've been here.
Sure.
And we definitely want to, at least in a way, make it a bit easier for new viewers to be able to understand what we're talking about and not only get into it from the middle of things. So maybe you can give a brief exposition or introduction to what you guys in Curvance actually are here to do. Like what's the general vision? What is Curvance in general? Just to give some background for those who are actually learning about it the first time. Although, like you say, people had like 2 years to start finding
Well,
out.
you know what I'll say is that what Curvance is actually kind of transformed over the last 2 years. It started very humbly as this kind of idea of like building almost like this third layer on top of like the Curve convex ecosystem. So as
Yeah, I remember
tapping
that.
into convex assets and urine assets and badger assets and stuff like that. And it's really kind of transformed over the last 2 years into something a lot bigger. So we're not like generalized to any particular ecosystem or flywheel or token at all. Now Curvance can basically work on any chain with pretty much any asset, and really just has like a much larger vision in terms of what we're aiming to solve, which is mainly around like the unification of liquidity. There's a lot of talk at, for example, the Ethereum Foundation about liquidity fragmentation as a ton of chains have come online the last few years. I'm sure you guys have seen there's like new L2s launching like pretty much every day now,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
alt L1s, tons of new things that are coming out that have innovations and have interesting things about them, but there's only so much liquidity in the system, and there's a ton of liquidity chasing these opportunities, and that leads to like a lot of liquidity fragmentation. So very broadly, what Curvance does is it unifies a lot of like DeFi actions that people take under one umbrella, and then makes it kind of acts as almost what I would describe as this rail system between chains. So what that might look like is if you want to borrow against very basic assets to go pay your taxes or something, you could do that on Curvance. But if you also want to do some like leveraged LP strategy where you're capturing yield on Aerodrome or, whatever DEX of your choice, you could do that on Curvance. Maybe you want to tap into like Athena basis trade and, leverage like, funding rate spread. You could do that on Curvance. If you want to do liquid restaking, points farming stuff with Eigenlayer and, all these different LRTs, you could do that on Curvance. Maybe you want to do like some leverage trading type stuff, like spot leverage. You could maybe, for example, long wrapped ETH and short wrap Bitcoin, and now you have like an ETH BTC spread trade, and you can basically one click lever into that position. So you can almost use it as like a alternative to like a perpetual DEX. And then we've built a lot of tooling around kind of these basic primitives that really wraps everything up nicely. So that's like zapping in and out of really complex positions. So instead of, for example, I'm sure you're familiar with this, when you've gone on Curve or whatever, you're trying to go into some position, it could be a little bit clunky or take a lot of actions, right? If you have like ETH and you want to go into some USDC, USDT pair, you're going to need to, if you want a single side deposit, it might be a little bit easier. If you want a double deposit, dual sided deposit, you're going to need to swap twice, approve twice, deposit into the LP, and then deposit into some form of gauge, like a convex or whatever your choice is. Well, Curvance, you could do that in one transaction now. And then,
Wow.
if you want to lever up or lever down, like just recently, I saw DeFi Saver worked on some leveraging actions for some of the stuff related to Curve USD. Well, you could just do that for any position, current position or new position inside Curvance natively, right? So we don't even need like third-party integrations for a lot of these things. So you go across all these different verticals of things you could do in DeFi, and we've really tried to unify them. And we also act as this kind of funnel or rail system for different chains. So maybe there's different opportunities on different chains, and you want to maybe move your assets from Ethereum to Base because Base suddenly has a ton of incentives going on. Now you could zap out of your position, bridge over, and zap back in without leaving the application at all. Which will, essentially simplify the DeFi experience for a lot of people.
Man, it sounds like it's gonna simplify it quite a lot, because when I hear what you say, like when you describe it in this way, and you give so many examples of different types of like DeFi activities or financial activities, actually, that someone can actually will hopefully be able to use Curvance for. It sounds a bit like you're aiming to be like kind of a one-stop shop for DeFi, but feel free to like sharpen my like view and correct me.
No, I think that's pretty spot on. I think right now a lot of people, there's so many like interesting things being built in DeFi across different chains, different different ecosystems, right? There's always like microcosms of development where you have like the Curve convex ecosystem and like Velodrome and Aerodrome, and you have Balancer, and you have all the Pendle stuff. You have all these new like kind of points driven narratives like LRTs and real world assets, and obviously you have the tried and true like liquid staking and stuff. And it's like it's a lot for any person to really engage with. And what that means is you're going to have a lot of friction for new users, right? Like you get kind of option paralysis, and it could be very overwhelming or confusing to figure out like how to actually best, opt into or build these strategies and such. So Curvance kind of aims to be that, as you said, like I think one-stop shop is a fair representation of it, where essentially it becomes your DeFi hub, like your application that you go to when you want to do DeFi stuff. I think about it in the same way as like Robinhood for stocks, right? Where with Robinhood, you can do your stock trading inside the application, and you want to check on your portfolio or, move around out of positions. You can just open up the Robinhood app, and then you can do all that from the app. You don't need to open up 10 different browser tabs or 10 different apps and go here and then there. It's all in one application. That's what Curvance aims to be.
Man, that's a big vision.
Yeah, which is also why it's taken so long to build.
Yeah.
But I think, and we're not going to get it perfect day one, of course, right? Like that's a big part of what this testnet rollout is going to be with this 4-stage plan between private and different like kind of this transitional period to like the full public release. It's going to go through like a lot of refinement, and we want to get people's feedback, and they say this area sucks or this button needs to be bigger, or what, like all the kind of like stupid like inherently like not like super transformative things. But in summation, if we could make 50, 100, 200 improvements in every area, then the application is going to get good, and it is going to get to be to that level where people want to use it instead of having to go to 20 other different places. Like, to me, that's one of the things that DeFi Llama has done really well, for example, where now whenever you want like DeFi information, you just go to DeFi Llama, right? So to me, I want Curvance to be that like essentially equivalent, but for the on-chain action side. And it's going to take a village to do that, right? And we need feedback from everyone, and we're going to take, it's going to take a lot of time to continually build out more and more and more features so that like everyone is happy and feels that it encompasses everything that they want, or at least the majority of things that they want, much more than what's out there.
Yeah, I think it's a big process, and I think it's also only a process you can actually achieve if you have an actual like. Of course, you have to have a good product, and because that's the only way that's going to get you the community, that's going
Right.
to give you the feedback, and like really decide in a way whether your product is chosen to proceed. Like the market is always.
It can be
And again,
ruthless.
I think because again, you guys are not exactly going for a niche. I think even like when you describe it, I think in a way the project has kind of started as a niche product in a way within a specific ecosystem. I think maybe even the name there is a bit still there to tell about it in a way. But as time went on, can you maybe share before we get into testnet? I am kind of curious on asking you, maybe can you maybe share your thought process and like maybe the process itself that you as a founder like went through after okay, because I don't know, when I try to like get into your like the like mind and like how you probably like thought of things, it's like, okay, a founder. And by the way, you seem like many founders, like you seem like pretty young general. And you
I'm
start
29. I look younger than I am.
Oh yeah, to be honest, true. You actually, I did thought that you were going to say that you were like 22, but still, like it's no. But
Yes,
definitely, I did.
I think it is, for one, it's a good thing, right? When I'm like 50, it'll be great
Oh
that
yeah,
I look
yeah.
like 35. Fingers crossed.
Amen, brother. Amen.
But what I'll say is that the team, the contributors to Curvance, we wanted to build a platform, a protocol that we ourselves would want to use, right? So that made it really easy because we've used all these DeFi applications that you yourself and anyone listening have used, right? And there's tons of like clunkiness and a lot of issues that people have with these things. And we've one of the benefits that I think really amplified our kind of trajectory to like building a good product was we were able to see what was successful in the tail end of the bull market and what wasn't successful in the bear market, right? So we were able to see the peaks and the troughs of the the movement of the market, and that made us able to like objectively look at what we were planning, what we were building, and where we were potentially making mistakes or entering into like pitfalls. So that kind of refinement over the last 2 years helped a lot with the kind of architectural design and the overall structure that we have today for Curvance. But yeah, I mean, it's a very incremental process. I always use the example of the ship at Theseus, like the philosophical thought, if you've ever heard of it. Essentially the idea is like you have someone like sailing in a boat at sea, and the boat has rotting planks, and they're replacing the planks one at a time, and by the end of the travel, the voyage, all the planks have been replaced, right? And kind of the thought experiment is like, is that the same boat, right? Well, everything's technically been replaced, but it was incremental, right? Where it started and ended, it's the same boat, but in another way, it's not. And that's really how I think about Curvance, right? We started with this very, as you said, kind of niche idea, and it just kind of naturally evolved. It was like, well, we see that there's a lot of friction for people, for protocols that they, accumulate all these governance tokens on one chain, and now they want to expand, and now they're a little bit stuck, right? Maybe they have a bunch of governance tokens that only work on Arbitrum, right? Well, now if they want to expand to Monad, next year, well, now they're kind of stuck, right? Because now those Arbitrum governance tokens don't work on Monad. So the first thing there was like, okay, well, we need to make sure the token voting system is omni-chain, right? That it could be, you could vote from any chain to any chain. Well, if we already have that, we should also add in omni-chain fees, right? Because now we have a way for chains to actually participate in like DeFi flywheel wars, right? Because now if one chain's making a ton of fees, but another chain is able to accumulate, the governance tokens on a chain, that means now that you're going to have fees directed to that chain, value directed to that chain. So now there's like a way for chains to participate in DeFi in ways that they haven't in the past, and it gives them a new tool in their toolkit. And then when you add that, it's like, well, now we already have the rail system for picking up and moving locks and stuff. Well, why don't we let people do cross-chain borrowing and cross-chain lending? And you keep kind of going down that path, and you incrementally kind of expand the scope, brick by brick, and by the end, it's like really this behemoth of like a vision. And that's really like the story of Curvance. It's like incremental additions to the vision, and then by the end, it's really become like this kind of 0 to 1 moment in our eyes for DeFi.
Amazing. Okay, so I understand that testnet is coming on.
Yeah, so we're launching our private testnet later today. So first, kind of news break here, I guess, on that. We're going to be releasing, I think, like 500 or 600 people have access to it for the first day here. That's going to very quickly expand. For our second round, we expect it to be a few thousand. For the third round, we have, I believe it's like 38 or 39,000 people pre-registered. And then the fourth phase is like open registration for anyone. So that's going to be over the course of 6 weeks, and we're going to be like continually shipping improvements, bug fixes, just lots of like incremental improvements to start daily, and by the end it'll still be like at least weekly. So the goal is to people can basically utilize a lot of the core features of Curvance. There's a few things that aren't on day one. For example, we're integrating some really cutting edge cross-chain tech on the Wormhole tech stack. And we need to get like those functions, basically whitelisted in their system, and a few things there. So we need to go through that process before we could turn on like the bridging mechanisms. And then there's also some restrictions on testnet around, like, for example, off-chain solvers like 1inch or Paraswap or any of these like aggregators don't work because there's nothing to optimize for on testnet. So we don't have like the zapping stuff, but everything else, from like borrow lending, collateralization of assets, the whole VE system, like all of that is live day one. And we're going to be like continually moving towards like rolling out as much functionality as we can over that 6-week period, as well as fixing any bugs found in our latest audit and moving into our final wave of audits, aiming for a late Q2 launch of the protocol.
Really? So soon? Like,
yeah.
testnet is like, you think the mainnet itself is also, I don't know if it's called mainnet. It's called Kerbans.
Yeah, well, it's going to be our beta launch, but it's mainnet, right? So it's essentially it's very similar to campaigns we've seen recently with like Athena or EtherFi, actually, where it's essentially a short like season period. We are going to have our own point system. We kind of got front run on the idea of points. Now everyone's tired of points because we took a little while come to market with them. But that'll last around 2 months, 8 weeks, and then we'll have like kind of the official launch, if you will. But it's going to be the same thing. It's just then the gauge system turns on, the DAO becomes active, and becomes like a decentralized entity.
When you say becoming a decentralized entity, then I apologize, but I'm thinking of tokens.
Well, I mean, the system is built to have like the CV token at the core, so it's not exactly a secret. So that one's that cat's out of the bag a little bit there. But yeah, we're having the Bytes campaign. We do want to reward people that participate in Testnet and submit good feedback. Certain communities that have supported us really heavily, as well as obviously users in the beta launch itself. So depositing assets, borrowing, lending, and so on.
That's really cool. And by the way,
which we will be announcing soon TM.
the classic way of
Yeah.
announcing. Always the best time to announce is soon trademark.
Yep.
You told me earlier before we talked that you've completed like a big audit lately or something like that? Because I'm pretty sure that you guys have already had like several audits, if I remember correctly as well, no?
Yeah, so we started auditing last August. So we're in, what is that, we're finishing month 8 now of audits. This was our first public audit. We've been working directly with, a lot of the top auditors in the space, like Trail of Bits, Trust Security, Y Audit from Yearn. And we went through, I believe it ended up being a 9-week audit, I think it was, might be 7. It was either 7 or 9. I remember it was an odd number. We extended it 1 week. So I believe it was either 7 or 9 weeks with Cantina, where we had people basically try to break the code base. We finished that on the 15th, so 3 days ago. And in the end, we had 757 submissions. We don't know the final number of people that participated yet. But we'll definitely be announcing that once we know. In the end, it looks like, and this obviously comes from the judging process, so I don't have these kind of direct numbers right now, but we're estimating that based on the submissions, we have about 40 to 50 bugs to fix, which is around where we estimated. My original estimate was 40 to 60. So we should be able to go through judging and all bug fixes in around 2 weeks. For reference, it was the largest code base that's ever gone to public audit. So it's probably around 4 times the size of a normal protocol. So obviously that the kind of like number of issues kind of transitions up, right? That means roughly like 10 for a normal protocol, which isn't that bad. And then we have this final wave of audits coming over the next few months. That'll be run in parallel with Testnet. So that's going to be very aggressive. We're looking to get 2 teams to build that out, or to work with us on that. And then, we'll have like the full beta launch, which is basically everything minus the token link system.
Man, that's probably a very exciting time for builders, like to be in this specific spot. Like how tense is it, like, or is it chill?
I'm not too worried about Testnet. Mainnet, I'm gonna definitely be like biting my nails because it's like that's when it's the go button. But what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna be running like basically a permissioned version of Curvance in parallel on Mainnet before the launch, so that we can make sure like everything works flawlessly. So then it's just essentially redeploying that same thing. So we take a very different. I know you guys talk to Mitch from Curve a lot, and he loves testing and prod. I'm very much the opposite. I like measure 1,000 times, cut once. So it's funny to see the kind of difference in style there. But yeah, we're very methodical with it. I'm not too stressed about Testnet. We've been testing it internally for a while, and it's really actually been ready since around January, but we keep pushing more features into it, and we wanted to really like kind of wow people day one, because in my head, like people have been waiting so long for this. We can't just get out like a average Testnet, right? We got to like kind of blow people away. So that's why we took a little bit longer.
In a way, it's true, because the longer the soon trademark period is, people definitely get more like excited. And by the way, other products are being delivered, and like if
Yep.
people at the end of the day, when people start using your product, you want to feel that PMF or immediately, and you want to feel that like the users actually say that okay, this has a new like message to the world, like there's something new to do here. And I think because honestly, the DeFi landscape is so much more competitive than even like a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the boons that we have with that is that like we don't really have a direct competitor. We have like borrowing and lending, like the Aves and the compounds and things like that, and we do a lot of like kind of strategy management stuff, like a Yearn, for example, or we have a lot of like the kind of like tooling built in, like a DeFi Saver or a Summerfi or an Instadap. But like we're talking with a lot of these different teams and we want to work with them. Like it's very much like we view ourselves as kind of this force multiplier or just like a collaborative entity in the space, that like we can help everyone win. We want to like grow the pie, if you will. So I'm not too concerned on like the competitive landscape side. What I do think will happen though is if our contracts are very competitive and people really like the tech stack, people are going to copy them, right? You're going to have forks of Curvance. So for us, our moat really is around the application itself and the network effect on it. So that's why we've been spending so much time on like the app, to make sure it's like really high quality to use and that people use it as kind of their home in DeFi, as we said earlier.
Can I ask you, like from what you're saying, it makes me want to ask this. You think you guys are going to have like a specific advantage maybe on like the UX, UI aspect?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Things?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've spent a ton of time and effort on it, and we've gone through like even when we're getting up today, we already have like improvements that are being worked on, and basically built both internally and in collaboration with external studios. So we have like a lot of arm power being put into the application build out, and we have a lot of things planned that you haven't really seen in Web3 at all, like even basic things like favoriting and like customization of an application, like really making that application yours, you don't see in Web3 at all. And that's like one of the first things we're looking at introducing into the application, things like goal systems, achievement systems, different site themes that you can unlock based on like maybe you have like a pudgy penguin and we want to add like a pudgy penguin theme so that now you can kind of personalize your application experience. And ways for you to turn in like we have, for example, this coin game in our Discord that isn't tied to the token itself, but it will be used for things like being able to get merch or roles in the Discord, but also potentially things like site themes, right? Well, wouldn't it be cool if you're really active in the community and you're able to unlock like some really, unique, rare, version of the site that you could also turn into an NFT, and then you could, either use it yourself and kind of flex on people, or even like give it away, or maybe even has some monetary value where now you could like sell it because someone else wants it to then flex on people. So we're looking at the application as almost like this secondary entity that needs a lot of love and care itself. It's not like an afterthought, like how I feel a lot of Web3 applications feel right now. It's mostly like we put in 98% of the work into the smart contracts and then 2% on the actual application experience. And that means a lot of these application experiences kind of suck.
Yeah, I actually think that for sure, like DeFi is one of the biggest weakness right now, maybe even the biggest, is the like the UI UX. Like, there's no way that
100%.
like, for example, and again, not financial advice, everyone, and all that. Like, I think the bull market is coming, and I've started to talk to some of my like in real life friends and whatever again, like I did like in the previous bull market when for me personally it was when I entered crypto in the DeFi Summer 2020. That's when I first started even learning about this and finance and all that. I don't know that much today as well, but I didn't know anything back then for sure. And now again I feel that the bull market is coming, but like the stuff that I think that they should do, they will not be able to have my conviction in doing, and they will not be as open to experiment with it, at least on most projects that I can think of. And I think that still, like, the competition out there for some apps. I don't think it's actually going to be one app, but for some apps that are going to change that is whoever gets the UI UX thing, and of course marketing and for sure a product. Yeah, you can do it without a working an
Yeah,
actual
well, I think you have
product.
like these certain things that are like getting the foot in the door. You need like a strong like kind of foundation on the smart contract level and the
Yeah,
for example like the network effective relationships, right? Like you got to also be working with peers in the industry. You got to have people that are kind of lifting you up. But I think, as you said, the two areas that really take it from that like moderate level of success to really explosive success is around like UI UX, and then the kind of attention economy. um,
yeah.
so for us that's been like a big focus. Now recently we didn't want to kind of, as I said 2 years ago, we didn't want to string people along, but now that we're actually getting closer, we're much more frequently getting out there and creating content and getting Curvance in front of people, both from like the what we do as an application, but also like as a brand, right? We have our little character Floppy, and we get him introduced in a ton of different ways. We have like the 3D rigged model that we could do a lot of like Photoshop with, but we can also we have a lot of like different like digital art pieces that we'll make for like all of our announcements. We'll get like work done for like announcing an Arbitrum grant, or that we're launching on Mainnet, or all these kind of like different catalysts. It's about like building out the Curvance brand and actually being like this force to be reckoned with in the space, and then wrapping up that whole experience in a really good application, and building like a really strong community around it to champion it as well.
Man, will be very interesting to see. I think that definitely on the community side, you guys have already proven that you were able to create it, and gonna be very interesting to see how the community responds to to the testnet first of all, but of course later on. And you say it's gonna be pretty soon, actually, at least you guys hope, to the actual like mainnet and product.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, it's
gonna
it's
be
ready
very
when it's ready, when as with anything with
yeah, yeah,
Curvance, but
for sure.
we're in the final kind of trek here.
For sure, for sure, man. What kind of? I want to ask you one more thing before we get to like the call to action.
Sure.
Right before we wrap it up. Like, I know that you guys like basically like. Can you maybe share a bit on like why you guys have chosen like Wormhole?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think that there's like a very saturated market for cross-chain messaging, and both on the bridging side and kind of the generic messaging side. So for us, when we want to work with groups, the two things that we look for is like the cultural fit between the
Mhm.
teams, right? Do the teams get along, or do we like would we be friends with
Yeah,
them outside of like a business relationship? And then two is like what their vision is for the future. What do they want to build? What do they want to champion, right? What is their passion and their goals for the next few years? um, and we talked to all the cross-chain messaging providers, and we had like the greatest resonance with the Wormhole guys. I think they had, obviously, I think a lot of people think of like the security incident they had in 2021, which they were able to make everyone whole on and bounce back from. And I think when that happens, there's two different ways that these protocols can kind of react to it. Either one, you kind of just fold, right? And that's like the multi-chain, right? They just kind of disappeared, right? Or
yeah,
you could really dig your heels in and like absolutely, blow the door off the hinges in terms of like the passion and the work ethic, and really moving your tech in the industry forward. And Wormhole was the latter, right? They started hiring some of the brightest minds out there. I'm very impressed with their team, their engineers, and the things that they're planning, the things that they've already shipped even the last 6 months, has been transformative. And the stuff they have planned for the next like 12 to 18 months, I think really is going to like push them to the top of the heap on the kind of like cross chain messaging kind of landscape, if you will. And we're going to help them do that, right? We're happy to represent their brand, and we want to like champion them just like they champion us, right? Because like we kind of view it as like we're in this together, and we really like the Wormhole guys. So that made the decision really easy for us. I think just broadly, a lot of the like I'll give you a perfect example on the technical side too. The last few months, we were able to rewrite some of our cross-chain code, and I'm not going to bore you with like the specifics or anything, but essentially what it meant is now we've built a system where if a chain goes down, it doesn't actually impact the overall system at all. So like if Arbitrum goes down because of some inscription stuff, it doesn't matter. And that's only possible with the we integrated Wormhole CCQ logic, their protocol there, and it's something that you really can't do anywhere else. I mean, you maybe can jury rig it with some other cross-chain messaging systems, but between that and a lot of stuff they have on the horizon, it's just in a design space that a lot of other cross-chain messaging providers like haven't caught up with yet.
Man, it's really going to be exciting because cross-chain seems like such a difficult nut to crack, like really.
Yeah.
But also, it seems like so many like talented teams are like trying to approach the idea more and more. Like if you'd ask me like a year and a half ago, I would tell you that if I just hear these words like cross-chain, omni-chain, whatever, I would just like no.
Well, I think you're looking at a I think you're looking at like a multi-chain future, right? Like you're not like a lot of people like to kind of you have a lot of like discourse right now around like Ethereum versus Solana, but I don't think like any of these chains are going away. I think Berachain's going to do really well. I think Monad's going to do really well, and there I think the whole movement ecosystem with like Movement Labs is and what that unlocks with their transpiler is really going to also introduce Move into the grand conversation. And when you have that, like if you're a team that's building something in the industry, you don't really want to lock yourself into like any particular chain, because it's a smaller, maybe you want to be a big fish in a small pond, but I think a lot of teams that are trying to really build like the future of finance, if you will, they have very high aspirations, and they want their tech kind of proliferated everywhere. They want to be on as many chains as possible with as much liquidity as possible, building with as many teams as possible, and really pushing the industry forward. And that means you have to conquer the cross-chain, hurdle, if you will. And I think we've done a really good job of that, and we're going to be open sourcing our solutions. So, the hope and the goal is that people can use those to then build even more cool stuff that, is transformative for the industry.
Yeah, cross-chain and multi-chain and all that. It seems much closer and much more real than it seemed in the past, at least for someone like me. And I think that if you'd asked me a year and a half ago, like I said, I would have been like, I don't know if that's ever happening. And today I'm like, okay, this is for sure happening. I'm just not sure who's going to do it. I'm just not sure whether a specific approach is gonna prove itself superior to the others, or maybe like few different approaches are gonna in fact prove that they actually work. To be honest, as someone who's mostly like just trying to cover all of that and viewing it, like it's fascinating to view. And definitely wish a lot of luck, because I know quite a few teams with very like different visions around that specific topic, and honestly wish them all well. And I hope that all these like different approaches like prove themselves to be to first of all work. You know what I mean? And honestly, looking forward to it. Okay, so. What are we sending our viewers here with, Mai? Like, what should they do if they hear you and they want to know more? First of all, know more about Curvance, but for sure, like, try and maybe participate in in the testnet who have like, I'm sure that some people may hear this and still don't have like an invite code, and they're curious if they can still get one. So like, what should people do, and if they want to participate?
Good question. Yes, I think that there's a few different things people could do right now. I'd say get involved is really like the high level suggestion there. Get involved in the Discord. We have a ton of stuff going on in there. We have like as I said, this whole like custom bot where people can like collect coins and they can buy roles and stuff. The highest role does get early access to testnet. That's what gets the first stage of invite. The earliest invite codes.
I'm not even sure, to be honest, if the stream froze just for me or whether it's actually still going on. I'm gonna wait a minute because I'm still not sure, but I'm starting to suspect that maybe we lost the connection with them, I mean. Either way, guys, been an honor to have Mai on again, friend of the show. Wish a lot of luck to Curvance with the new upcoming launch. Yeah, it does seem like Mai lost his connection there. I will try to get him back on again. And if not, we'll just wrap it up here. And of course, guys, feel free to check Curvance out. You can find Kerbans. You just write Kerbans on X. You'll see probably all the links over there. And if you really want to get involved, just like Mai started saying over there, you can become, if you want to become a Curvancian, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. You should just head out there and try to use the link yourself, the testnet. Again, guys, Mai, thanks a lot for coming, man. We'll talk to you on TG later, and thank you about it again. Remember, by the way, that as someone who's been on the show quite a few times, you've earned some squid, as they say, some squid points. So be sure you and everyone else who's ever participated on the show as well, be sure to use our bot built by the great GOAT Curvecap, the number one llama in the world, and give us your ETH address, not your seed phrase, of course, because we do want to give you guys some squid points on Fraxstat. And by the way, if you guys have ever also submitted headlines, then for sure reach out. Let's get your ETH address there. We want to make Leviathan as community driven as possible, and we're really trying to do it in new ways that we can think of. And honestly, it's been a lot of fun, and it creates new opportunity. We will also upload the episode later to our pods.media channel, where you can also mint it if you guys want to be eligible for some squid points and you don't want to actively participate. You can also mint our episodes at Leviathan News on pods.media. I think it costs 0.002 ETH. And then you will also be eligible for squid points allocation as well. We'll be having another show today, hopefully in even less than half an hour, our weekly panel, the new show on Thursdays with Amplice, Millie, and myself. Maybe Sam is going to be available and going to join as well. If you have anyone in mind that you want us to add, let us know. I will also definitely one of the shows I'm most excited about starting, and really looking forward to already talk to Million and Plice about Bitcoin halving and of course weather in Dubai. Okay, so either way, was a lot of fun having Mai on. Check out Curvance testnet, guys. Give them the right feedback that they need. Only way to get these things working as they should. And hopefully we'll have Mai back in about a month or so to let us know how Testnet is going, what kind of feedback they've been getting, and whether Mainnet over there is actually coming on before the end of Q2. Quite a lot of quite interesting alpha there, to be honest, by Mai. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I also know that maybe the stream on X didn't work as well as usual. Hopefully it will work better on the next show. And tune in, by the way, tomorrow for a very special Llama party as well. I'll also mention it on the weekly panel. And I'm just talking too much, guys. See you in a few minutes. Bye.